SOMNIPHOBIA.
Across American folklore, there are many hauntings, but only one that historians treat differently, because it happened to real, documented people. It unfolded on a Tennessee farm 200 years ago, where a family came to believe that something unseen shared their home. It never showed a face. In this episode, we turn to the farm of John Bell and to the entity his neighbors came to call Kate, events remembered together as the Bell Witch haunting. John Bell is the only man an American ghost story is blamed for killing, found dead beside a small vial that, thrown on the fire, is said to have burned a strange blue. What was happening there has been argued ever since. But before the doubt came the ordeal, and before it, an ordinary family and a quarrel over land. The story we turn to this week begins not with a ghost, but with a family. Around 1804, a prosperous North Carolina farmer named John Bell moved his wife Lucy and their children west into the young state of Tennessee. They came for good land. He bought roughly 320 acres of rich bottomland along the Red River near Adams in Robertson County, and for about 13 years, the Bells lived quietly there and grew steadily wealthy. Their youngest daughter, Elizabeth, everyone called her Betsy, had been born in January of 1806. When the trouble began, she was only about 11, a slight girl at the edge of a large, busy household. By every surviving account, these were settled, comfortable years, the kind a frontier family measured in cleared fields, full barns, and the slow turning of the seasons. And then, quietly, something curdled. The verified backdrop was not a spirit, but a soured business deal. A bitter dispute between John Bell and a neighbor over the sale of an enslaved person and disputed property terms. Surviving records tie the quarrel to the Batts family. It was the kind of falling out a small community does not forget. Money and pride left to fester between two neighbors who would no longer speak. Out of it grew a rumor. A sharp-tongued local widow named Kate Batts, people whispered, had cursed John Bell, and in the retellings that followed, the entity would answer to the name Kate. The record cuts against the legend on one point worth holding on to. Kate Batts was a real woman, and she outlived John Bell by years. It was not her. The strangeness, by the accounts, began in the summer of 1817. John Bell was crossing his fields when he saw something impossible. An animal with the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit, motionless at the edge of the corn. He raised his gun and fired. It was simply gone. Soon after, the family said, the nights changed. Scratching and knocking at the windows and walls after dark, faint at first, then insistent, and always stopping the moment anyone rose to look. Then the disturbances found a center. Witnesses described the torment settling on the youngest daughter, Betsy, her hair pulled upward as if by a hand, her cheeks slapped by nothing they could see, the covers dragged from the sleeping children. And then, into all of it, came the voice. Neighbors, ministers, and the curious said they heard a distinct female voice, one that sang hymns, quoted scripture, traded gossip, and, by one account, spoke at a nerve-wracking pitch when displeased. What unsettled the visitors most was not the noise, but the knowing. A voice that answered their questions, named their secrets, and seemed to have been listening all along. The house drew a crowd. Curious strangers rode in for miles to sit in the dark and wait, and in 1819, the accounts say, one of them was General Andrew Jackson. The best-known version holds that his wagon stopped dead at the property line, fixed to the road though the horses were whipped and the wheels found clear. Then a voice, they said, told him he could pass, and that it would see him that night. It is a vivid scene. It is also one that every surviving version traces back to a single book, written decades after the fact. A caution worth carrying into all that follows.
Through the last months of 1820, John Bell began to fail. The accounts describe facial twitches that would not stop, seizures that seized his jaw and tongue, and long spells of paralysis that left him unable to speak for hours at a time. The family had long since stopped expecting comfort from the voice. Now, they said, it grew worse. It cursed him, mocked his suffering, and swore it would not rest until he was gone. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, John Bell was found in his bed, insensible and still. Beside him, on a small shelf, sat a vial no one in the family recognized, a dark liquid, perhaps a third of it gone. He did not wake. By that evening, he was dead. The family said the entity boasted of it at once, that it had poisoned him, and that he would never rise again. When someone threw the vial's dark contents onto the hearth, the witnesses claimed, the fire flared up with a strange blue flame. John Bell remains the only man an American legend is popularly blamed for killing. The torment did not end with the funeral. Through 1821, the accounts say, it turned on Betsy's engagement to a young man named Joshua Gardner, opposing the match with such relentless fury that, at last, she broke it off. And then, as suddenly as it had come, the presence began to withdraw. The knocking thinned, the voice fell quiet. It left, the family said, with a single promise, that it would come back in 7 years. For the Bells, it seemed, the ordeal was finally over, yet the promise it left behind pointed at a date still to come. So what, then, was really happening in that house? Here the story opens up, because alongside the legend runs a documented, rational case. Almost everything we know traces back to one place, a book published in 1894 by a newspaperman, M.V. Ingram, and a manuscript he credited to Bell's own son, Richard Williams Bell. No first-hand diary survives. Skeptics like the investigator Joe Nickel argue that Ingram likely wrote the manuscript himself, citing anachronistic language, writing styles that matched too closely, and no original traceable before the 1890s. The most famous haunting in American folklore may rest on a forgery. Others looked closer to home. Two contemporaries, Lucinda Rawls and Mahala Darden, were said to suspect Betsy herself, and an article in 1856 went further still, accusing the girl of ventriloquism. And the darkest details have the plainest explanations. John Bell's symptoms fit a natural neurological illness, and a blue flame is exactly what arsenic makes when it is thrown onto a fire. And there is the pattern. A child at the center repeats across history,
The Fox sisters, whose raps launched a movement before they confessed a hoax in 1888. The girls at Enfield in the 1970s, who later admitted faking it. Betsy, for her part, later married her former schoolteacher, Richard Powell, a man a few historians have quietly suspected of arranging the whole affair from the shadows. And yet the Bell Witch endures. A historical marker still stands in Adams, and each year thousands descend into the cold limestone of the Bell Witch Cave, touring the cavern and a reconstructed log cabin on the old Bell land. Betsy Bell lived to be 82, dying in Mississippi in 1888. By every account, she never once publicly took back what her family swore they had lived through. What this case asks of us is not to believe, only to sit, as those neighbors once did in a dark house, and listen.
Don't be afraid. It's just us. Subscribe